Hello and welcome back to SportsbookReview.com. Today we are talking NBA Eastern Conference playoffs with our expert handicapper, Ross Benjamin. Now, Ross, let's dive right into this Game 4 matchup featuring the Bucks and the Bulls. Chicago looks to put a cap on a rather dominant sweep tomorrow night, while the Bucks are just clutching at straws trying to find a modicum of success. They were so close last night, grabbing the Bulls by the horns and storming back from a big deficit to tie it up, eventually losing it overtime. This really is a crushing loss for Milwaukee, and I think it will be the nail in the coffin here. I find it highly unlikely that the Bucks can turn this series around, but can they do anything to avoid this sweep tomorrow at home?
Well, I mean, you make some astute observations. There's a big difference between being down 2-1 and 3-0, especially in light of the fact that no team in NBA history has ever overcome a 3-0 deficit. The mindset that the Bucks have to have, in my estimation, is they have to take it game by game. They can't think of the overwhelming task of having to win 4 in a row. And quite frankly, the realistic goal here is to try to win a game in a series, and it has to start with tomorrow. So they have to, first of all, put Game 3 behind them, because that was a gut-wrenching loss, Matt. Not only did they lose in overtime, they lost in double overtime. And as you astutely pointed out, they came back from 8 points down with about a minute 40 to go, had all kinds of momentum going into overtime, and eventually lost the game. So that could take a lot out of a team mentally, and sometimes losing stuff mentally at this point in the playoffs is a lot more damaging than physically.
Yeah, as we all know, you really need to have a short memory when it comes to sports. Wins, losses, goals, no goals. It can really affect you moving forward in these sorts of things. Now, I almost see this as a foregone conclusion at this point, that the Bulls are going to win and to sweep. Derrick Rose, Jimmy Butler shooting the way they have been. The only thing I could see coming in between this is an injury. What do they need to focus on tomorrow night to put the cherry on the top of this series and sweep Milwaukee right out of the playoffs?
Well, they just have to maintain their focus and concentrate on the task at hand. At this point of the season, being that it's the playoffs, getting some rest at this time of the year is essential. And if they win this game, they'll afford themselves the opportunity of some ample rest between their first round and second round series. This is also a Bulls team that's won their last 7 in a row, 13 of their last 17 overall. And the one thing that's impressive about beyond what you just mentioned, Matt, as far as Derrick Rose and Jimmy Butler is concerned, is the fact that this is a Bulls team that's now playing what I deem to be Bulls basketball under Tom Thibodeau, where they've really strapped down defensively recently. In this series alone, they've held Milwaukee to less than 40% shooting from the floor. They've held opponents to less than 40% shooting in their last 4 games overall. And if you look at the last few weeks, they've done a very good job of really locking down defensively, and that's been a key component in their success down the stretch. So they're going to be very difficult to beat right now. The only team that I think that can beat Chicago on Saturday is Chicago themselves by not being mentally prepared and focused to play.
Yeah, that's a great point. You know, the Bulls are so strong playing with their intensity the way that they so oftentimes do, and they really need to keep that up on Saturday. Now let's take a look at the lines for this game. Bulls are not as heavy as a favorite as one would expect. 5 dimes have the Bulls minus 105 giving 5. They come in tomorrow with the momentum and the massive 3-0 lead in this series. Add to that the Bucks are 0-9 in playoff games dating back all the way to 1990. With Chicago 4-1 against the spread in their last 5, playing better and better each night, is this pick as obvious to you as it is to me, Ross?
Well, I mean, let's start with the line. I think that line is fairly accurate. If you look at the fact that it was -3 in Game 3 and they bumped it up to -5, to me, that's a pretty big adjustment at playoff time. And it just goes to show that the books are pretty much in agreement with both of us that they feel that Milwaukee's going to have a difficult time in bouncing back from that mentally crushing loss that they went through in Game 3 in double overtime. I just think, it's not that it's so obvious, because a lot of times I don't like taking the most obvious play on the board, because in sports betting, if you don't know this already, if it looks too good to be true, most times than not it is. but this isn't an exception to the rule. Chicago is just much the better team at this juncture of the season. I think they have enough experience on this lineup that they know the essentiality of putting the Bucks away and getting some extra rest. So I'm going to take the Chicago Bulls here. I'm going to lay the 5 over Milwaukee. A very small lean, though. I wouldn't put a lot of money on this contest because, like I said, the only thing that scares me here is it looks so obvious. Sometimes it could be a sucker play, but I don't think that's going to be the case here. Small play on Chicago over Milwaukee on Saturday.
All right, thanks, Ross. No real surprises here. We're going to look for the Bulls to clinch and cover. I want to thank you for the expert advice, and we'll be looking to cash in for sure tomorrow night. And we're going to also give you a call again tomorrow to talk about more of these NBA playoffs, all right?
I look forward to it. 6-4 so far in the playoffs here at SBR. It's only going to get better as we go along. Always a pleasure to be with you, Matt. Thank you.
All right, well, we'll keep that rolling again tomorrow. And for Sportsbook Review, I am Matt DeStaro. Remember, keep it right here for all your NBA playoff picks and predictions.